Is someone making you document your Go code? Is it time to learn how to use the Go tools so that you can document your code with the least amount of effort possible? Hi, my name is Wani. In this video, we're going to learn how to turn our Go code into Go documented code using Godocs. The first thing to do is to install the Godocs tools. You can do that by using this command here. It'll also be in the description below. Feel free to pause the video and come back once you have Godocs installed on your machine. Now that you have Godocs installed, let's create a Go project. So I'm going to start by going make directory, and then I'm going to call this docs demo, and then we'll cd into there, and we're going to call go mod init. Now it's really important that the project name actually has a URL in it. Usually this would be your repository name. For this tutorial, we can just go ahead and make up a URL. So I'm going to go example.com/docsdemo. And now we want to create some code. So I'm going to go with demo.go. We'll give it a package name, docsdemo. And I'm just going to define a constant here. And I'm going to call it bytes per kilobyte. And make that equal to 1024. And save that. And now we're going to actually try and serve our Godocs. So we're going to go doc HTTP. We're going to serve this on port 8080. And now let's go over to a browser and see whether or not we can find those Godocs. We want to put in localhost 8080, and here's our locally served Godocs. Now to find our particular package, we want to go to the third party section. And here we can see example.com, docsdemo, and we can go and look at the documentation for our package. It's pretty boring right now because we haven't really defined any documentation comments or anything like this, but we can see this bytes per kilobyte constant that we defined. So the next thing that we're going to do is actually write some documentation comments. So I'm going to jump up into here and go bytes per kilobyte represents the number of bytes in a kilobyte. Kind of obvious, I know, but hey, this is just a demonstration. And now if we refresh, that comment shows up here in the documentation. Next thing that you might want to do is document your package. Now there's two things to consider here. There's the synopsis, which is what shows up when you're looking at the index of different packages. And then there's the overview, which shows up in the documentation for your particular package. So the first sentence is always going to be in the synopsis. So you want it really kind of light and punchy. And then all of the following documentation shows up only in the overview. So in here I'm going to write, this package demonstrates Godocs. And I'm going to add something else here which says this will only be in the overview. We're going to save this and go over to the documentation. And if we go back one here and refresh, we can see that the synopsis is not actually updated. So back to the code, what we actually need to do here is rerun the Godoc tool. And if we go back over, refresh here, we can see that that synopsis has shown up. Back into doc demos, we can see that both the synopsis sentence is here, but also the following documentation that we made for our package. The last thing that I want to do is create a function in here. So I'm going to go func print kilobytes, and it's going to take a size of type integer, and in here we'll go format.printf, and I'm going to go %d kilobytes, and then a new line, and then finally I'm going to add in here size divided by bytes per kilobyte. Now I want to write a dot comment for this, so I'm going to go print kilobyte prints the size in kilobytes to the terminal. And save that. Make sure that you import format as well. And the next thing I'm going to show you before we go back to looking at the documentation is how examples work. So examples are one of the cooler features that we have in Godocs. They both double as regression tests, but also provide examples in the documentation. So we're going to start by creating a file called examples_test.go. And in here we're going to give it a package name of docs demo_test. And now we'll define our first example. and we just create a function called example, so pretty simple. And then we're going to use docsdemo.printKilobytes, and we're going to pass into it 2 times docsdemo.bytes per kilobyte. Now if we save this, it imports that docsdemo, and hey look, we can run it as a test. But before we can actually run it as a test and expect it to pass, we should define what output we expect. So I'm going to say here output, and then I'm going to say 2 kilobytes, and save this. And if we run it, it fails. And it fails because I used a lowercase b. We change this to an uppercase and run it again, it passes. So there's our regression testing. The other cool thing, of course, is that it does show up in the docs. So if we refresh our browser, we can see the example here, and it shows, hey, this is how you can use this package, and this is the output that you'd expect from using it this way. Now you may be wondering, how do I write a particular example for, say, our print kilobytes function? And this is pretty easy. All we do is copy this example here. I'm going to change it a little bit by changing this print kilobytes to 5 with an output of 5. And to make it show up in the print kilobyte documentation, we just need to change this function name to print kilobytes. So we can save this, jump back over to the documentation, refresh, and we can see that now print kilobyte also has an example. However, there are also going to be times where you want, say, your print kilobyte function to have more than one example in it. To do this is pretty easy. All we do is copy this again, paste it, and this time go underscore, and I'm going to say megabyte. Basically put 1 megabyte into the print kilobyte function. The output that we're going to expect is 1024 kilobytes. And just to show you how documenting these examples work, you can in fact add dot comments up here. So I'm going to say print 1 megabyte in kilobytes to the terminal, and save that. And if we jump back to our documentation and refresh, we can see now print kilobytes has 2 examples. And if we expand that, we can see both that dot comment that we wrote and that it's showing the 1 megabyte example. So before we wrap up, I just want to mention that Godocs can be used for anything public in your package. So that includes things like public type definitions such as structs or interfaces, or also public methods. This has been a very brief overview of Godocs. I've linked a project in the description from Fluhouse called Godoc Tricks, so if you're looking for more advanced techniques, I definitely recommend that you check it out. I've been Juani Bryson, happy documenting, and I'll see you later.